All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you for watching, for listening, however you consume this show. I appreciate you very much. Today's show is sponsored by Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbott Road. And if you happen to be on the video side, we're going to be live at Sunny Reds Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Nate Gary from WGR, Chris Trapasso from CBS Sports. Both of them will join me live from Sunny Reds. We'll talk Bills, NFL, draft, all that fun stuff. By the way, 50-cent wings at Sunny Reds on Wednesday nights. If you're in that area, stop up, say what's up, and get some really good food. This is going to be the second last in our Bills full 7-round mock draft series. And had him on the last couple of years for this exercise. Had to get him back again. One of my absolute favorite content creators out there. Good buddy, Bruce Nolan, Bruce exclusive. What's up, dude? How you doing? Thank you, as always, for coming on Talking Buffalo. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Pat. I appreciate it. It's nice. You know, it's always a kind of a nice benefit when someone has you on for something and then they invite you back for the same thing next year, as opposed to someone saying, hey, you know, let's make a thing of this. And then you never hear from them again. It's like when you're texting your buddy and they say, oh man, yeah, it's been too long. Yeah, we should catch up. Yeah, sure. Let's catch up. And then both of you know that neither one of you have any intentions of actually ever getting together. It is thankful. I am thankful that this is not the case in this case. And then I'm back to do this with you.
Well, I'll be honest with you, man. You pull numbers, you move merch, you sell tickets. So gotta keep the bag up there.
Purely a selfish endeavor then.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's okay. At least we're honest.
So we're going to do, again, our second last mock draft. I wanted to keep you for near the end here. The first two drafts, I will say, David Tilton and Anthony Prohaska, both from cover one during our mock. Trey Amos has been a 2-time first-round pick for the Bills. Could it be 3? We'll find out shortly here with Bruce. Before we jump into the mock, though, let me ask you a couple quick questions that I want to get to. Number one, how do you approach mock drafts and just like mock draft season in general? Like, what's your attitude towards them, both as a football fan and also as a content creator?
This is a pro mock account. So I am a pro mock draft guy. And the reason is I don't think anything has ever been more important in life than being prepared. As a general rule, most of the things that we're nervous about or anxious about aren't really causing us anxiety because they're unknown. They're causing us anxiety because they're unconsidered.
Right.
And so for me, if you look at major Fortune 500 companies, they all do scenario planning. Like that's a huge part of a lot of forecasting and strategy meetings that occur in upper levels of Fortune 500 companies. It's, hey, let's play this out, right? Let's see what this looks like. NFL teams admittedly do mock drafts, not because they don't know what they're going to do. They just want to walk it through and say, okay, if this happens and this happens and this happens, and we end up with this guy, how are we going to feel? And what are we going to do? If this guy falls to this, okay, let's put these kind of deals on the table about moving up or moving back. And they're doing it so they'll know ahead of time what they'll do in a situation. We're doing it ahead of time so we'll know how we'll feel in a situation. I don't ever get caught unaware. So the worst spot you can be is unprepared. So all of a sudden it comes down, the Bills pick a guy at 30. You have no idea who that person is because you put your head in the ground purposely because you're like, mock drafts, man, mocks are the worst. And so you stick your head in the ground and then you hadn't considered the idea of actually drafting that guy at 30. And you go, well, now I'm reacting emotionally in the moment. So number one, I think they're a valuable preparation tool. Number two, I think that it forces you into binary decisions. One of the great parts about doing mock draft exercises is that it forces you to be making decisions in a resource limited environment. So you can't have Kenneth Grant and also Derek Harmon. Sorry, you can't. So maybe you hadn't considered which one you preferred, But now all of a sudden they're both on the board at 30 in your mock draft. Now you go, oh no, I have to pick one over the other. Who's it going to be? It forces you into those moments where you have to make decisions, which can help clarify your feelings on specific players. So that's the second benefit. Forced binaries, right? They create those situations where you got to make a call. The third thing is that this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah,
like, I understand that we don't love it, and it's a very serious business. Oh, Pat, I take my responsibility as a content creator super responsibly. It's just really serious, and I got to put out the best content for all my people. And I got to take it really seriously. We got to only talk about serious stuff,
right?
But it's supposed to be fun, and it's fun. It's fun to talk about this stuff, so I can be more prepared than ever if I do them. I can be forced into situations where I need to clarify my thoughts on a prospect, which I think is good. And also, it's fun. So this is a pro mock account here. All the mocks. Give me all the mocks.
All of them.
The benefits absolutely outweigh the drawbacks. For me, I think they're a great way of preparing people. And above all else, it helps you know where to start. For a lot of NFL fans, they don't start, quote unquote, draft prep until like February. What do you do? You look up a list of every single draft eligible prospect and you just start randomly picking people? No. How do you do it? You start looking at mocks first and you go, oh, okay, that's where I should start. I just saw this guy mock to the Bills at 30th. I'm going to start with that guy. So like, there's lots of benefits to mocks and I am all about them.
I agree with every single thing you said. And furthermore, it doesn't force you. It makes you want to learn about a lot more players as well. It's kind of like going to school and maybe it's not your favorite subject per se, but the professor will say, well, we got to do this, but we're going to make it more fun. Like we're going to make class more fun. Your project's going to be more fun by doing it this way. So instead of just straight up trying to learn about as many players as possible, when you're doing mock drafts and seeing trends and where people are going, I kind of feel like the mock is the fun part of it. You know what I mean? Playing out, like you said, scenarios and situations. So yeah, it's like kind of taking a subject to school that maybe it wasn't your most, favorite subject, but you find a twist to make it more fun. One thing I think we all know when it comes to this draft, I don't think you need to really be any kind of expert or even anything more than a novice, is to know the Bills are going to look for a handful of impactful defensive players, very likely early in this draft. We spent a lot of time talking about them. I'm sure when we get the mock going here in just a few minutes, some names will come up that, you and I might hit on. But I just want to spend a few minutes actually talk about the other side of the football, the offense, which I don't think is going to get the same treatment, but I do think there's possibilities in this draft with any draft as well. I want to start with the running backs because this to me has been really interesting, Bruce. And this has been my take with the whole James Cook thing and the contract. And, this is already his last year. Brandon Beane made it pretty clear he's not getting an extension anytime soon. I'm certainly not going to say he won't get one at some point. I'm not going to conclude that James Cook is one and done here after this season. It's certainly possible and probably at this point, at least it feels likely here in March. But let's just assume, for the sake of discussion, that the Bills do not trade James Cook, whether he goes after this season or whether he doesn't. He plays out this season. Brandon Beane and staff decide we're a better football team with James Cook than the third and maybe a fifth for a fourth or some kind of swap that they may get. And they say, we're going to keep him this year. Let's see how things play out. Okay. If that's the case, you got James Cook, you got Ty Johnson, you got Ray Davis. No chance any of those guys are getting cut. They're all making this roster. A lot of talk about running backs, taking a running back because, again, James Cook's final season in all likeliness. But if you take a running back, Bruce, you're going to have to roster him. I mean, if you take a running back, say in the fourth round, the fifth round, maybe the third round, anywhere in that range, you're pretty much saying this guy's on my active roster. You'd be rostering 4 tailbacks. Like if that happens, Bruce, does it need to be a guy who's got either straight up like kickoff return ability or special team skills? Because how do you have a fourth running back on your team who kind of would sort of be a red shirt this year with no value for this year other than special teams to the 2025 Bills? Does that make sense for the people out there who are really insisting that the Bills are going to use, say, a mid-round pick on a running back?
Yeah. First off, I'm never in favor of drafting a running back a year before you need them. Like,
Right.
I have no interest in doing that, right? I don't think that there's benefit in seasoning a running back. I think one of the things you can't do is simultaneously say, hey, I don't want to pay James Cook because the value is getting a running back on a rookie deal.
Mhm.
And then in the exact same breath, say, I want to draft a running back and sit him for a year.
Yeah.
Like those are hypocritical. You can't line those two things
Right.
up.
Agreed.
So for me, if you're going to get somebody and you're going to actively roster them, it's got to be a kick returner. Like it's got to be Brashard Smith or someone like that, right? It has to be somebody who gives you a reason to do it. And the reason that is because Brandon Beane made a deal for Codrington and he was a good returner for the Buffalo Bills. And then when the playoffs came around, he was inactive.
Mhm.
And I think it was because he couldn't contribute from scrimmage and they wanted more defensive backs. So for me, if you have a guy, first off, I'm not in a rush to get rid of Brandon Condrington as the returner because I think he did a really nice job last year. But if you're going to do it, it's got to be somebody who you can find a reason to roster on game days. So for me, it's got to be somebody who can contribute in the kick and punt return game, or at least provide you with an extra. He's a gunner or something, right? Because you have a new special teams coach. He's going to want some of his own guys. There's been a lot of turnover with the special teams unit. So it's got to be somebody like that. You can't get somebody with the idea that, wow, he's the best scrimmage guy who was available in the 4th round, because he's not going to see the field. Right. So, and I don't think James Cook is getting traded. So those two things in combination means I agree with you.
So, I mean, I know you well enough to know that you're never going to close the door on anything, but going into this mock and the mocks you do, I'm assuming you approach this draft where running back is not any kind of priority to you.
Yes.
But if you get a guy, again, 4th, 5th round, and he's going to be your primary kick returner, which either that or a core special teams player, which most running backs that get drafted in the 3rd, 4th round, are they really core special teams players? I think probably not, but you're not closing the door on it. But it's not likely that you're really thinking running back relatively early in this draft, right?
That is absolutely correct. In fact, most of my mocks have had zero investment.
Okay.
I put the meme from Seinfeld up on my social media where it said, I got a plan. We go to the owner and we tell him we have a running back acquisition strategy about nothing. Nothing. Everyone else is doing something. We'll do nothing. Right? Like that's my meme about running back strategy for most years is do nothing. So for me, it's mostly do nothing. I would be shocked if I take a running back, but like you said, not going to close the door on anything because you never know who might be there.
Yeah, I look, I think the people who are thinking running back also think the Bills are going to trade James Cook. And to your point, I'd be stunned at this point if that happens. Now, wide receiver to me is a little more intriguing because the Bills are bringing in a lot of receivers right now for visits, and it feels like a real possibility. I know Torrey Horton, Jalen Royals, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Isaiah Bond, who's getting now in trouble, but Deontay Thornton, who Anthony actually took in I think the 5th round of our mock last week. These guys have been coming in for visits or workouts with the Buffalo Bills. So there's been plenty of action on the wide receiver front. Feels like guys who are not day 1 for sure, and probably not day 2 guys, although a couple of them could be late day 2 guys, but more like early, possibly day 3. So let me ask you this about the Bills receivers right now when it comes to like rosters and how you construct the roster. If the Bills take a receiver, a guy who's going to make the roster as a rookie, okay, and you have Coleman and Shakir and Samuel and Josh Palmer, that's your top 4 right now. You're going to draft a 5th guy who has, I don't know that if he doesn't have special teams value, like who's the odd guy out? I know a lot of people were like, well, you cut Curtis Samuel. You're not cutting Curtis Samuel. It makes zero financial sense to do that. After this year, completely different story. So you drafted a guy, Curtis Samuel, you could easily move on from after this year. But how are you approaching wide receiver right now in regards to the Buffalo Bills when you got those 4 guys intact right now?
Take all the things I said about running back and just go ahead and copy those things and just paste them in here. Because it's the same conversation. Like you need to give me a reason to make you active. So whether that's a Ricky White late, whether that's Isaac Tesla, who I know people are really fond of, early day 3, someone who you think can come in and contribute on special teams and give you a reason to be active in that 5th. I think ideally based on the archetype that the Buffalo Bills are missing. What they'd want is they'd want some verticality and some special teams in one guy, because that's the thing you don't have in your top four: verticality and teams. So I would be looking for verticality and teams from that wide receiver 5 spot. And if you look at some of the archetypes that they've been bringing in, yeah, it's verticality and potentially teams. So for me, that's what I would be looking at in a wide receiver 5.
Okay. Last point here, offensive line. I think tight end, we could just conclude that by saying they're probably going to take one at some point. They could use a third tight end right now, and possibly the right guy you're grooming to eventually take over for Dawson Knox, maybe as early as next year, 2026. Offensive line, zero buzz right now with the offensive line whatsoever. I looked up again, I went on Ryan Talbot's thing and visits. There's not really any offensive line visits. I think there was one Zoom and that's it, or one private workout or something like that. And that was it. They got 2 starters that are in the last year of their contract, McGovern, Edwards. But this team also has pretty good depth right now. What's your expectation there? It feels to me, if you're not getting a guy, say, any earlier than the 4th, I probably going to have an uphill battle to make, I would think, to make this roster, no?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's tough to find a spot, but at the same time, like you said, you've got people with expiring contracts. So I think an interior offensive line is probably a pick at some point. David Edwards and Connor McGovern, you think to yourself, okay, of those 2 players, which one's more likely to get re-signed? I think the answer is Connor McGovern. So as you look at those 5 starting positions, you think, okay, Dawkins, Edwards, McGovern, Torrance, Spencer Brown. Okay, could Cedric Van Pran-Granger be a left guard? Right? Like how comfortable are you? How do you like Alec Anderson? So you start kind of trying to piece together a universe without David Edwards, and you go, does Connor McGovern move to left guard? I don't think he does, is the answer. I think you're more likely to see an Alec Anderson or a Cedric Van Pran-Granger or something like that. Or even if maybe they fall in love with Kendrick Green, right? I don't know. But the point is that I think if you're looking at offensive linemen, you're looking interior, and I think you're looking at someone who could backfill a potential universe where David Edwards isn't a Bill. So I think I'd be looking for like left guards.
Okay, going into this draft, last question, then we're going to roll it out here. Do you have a strategy? Like, I'm not asking you for anything specific, but like, are there guys that you're saying, I might be willing to take a really big swing and give up a first and a second, or maybe even next year's first to get in from that somewhere in the teens range to go really get a player because I really love this player? Or do you think the way that things are playing out with the Bills right now, your strategy is going to be probably not going to do anything crazy? I could add, I could stockpile some talent. Or are you like of the mindset that you're going to take a big swing? Now, of course, you got to see how things play out, which is going to be the fun of doing a mock draft, of course, because we don't know how things are going to play out until it's real time. You know what I mean? But do you have like kind of a predetermined, at least general strategy on how you want to approach this draft?
Yes. First off, general strategy. You can't see me, but I'm saluting. But also, I think that I have less of an appetite toward a big trade up this year than I do most years. And the reason that is because I think it's thin at the top. I think this is a good class from about the middle of the first round to like the middle of the 4th round. Like I really think there's some good players in that range. But this is not a significantly deep blue chip draft, in my opinion. And so I think you'd be trading up, and your probability is you're actually not getting a tier 1 player. You're getting roughly the same quality of player you'd get at 30 anyway. Truthfully, I think that the difference between a player you get at 30 and the player you get at 21, right, is not as high as you think. In fact, it might not be higher at all. And so my appetite for a major move up the board, it's always limited because as a general rule, I pretty much only want to move up for quarterbacks. Like as a general rule, that's about it. When you're picking at 30, obviously it's a different story if you're getting into the top 5 from 8 or whatever it is. And usually you're doing that for a quarterback. So for me, I have less of an appetite this year. Obviously you never say never, but if somebody, ridiculous fell out of what I thought would be the top 8 and all of a sudden they're there at 19, sure. Yeah. Let's talk. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that the blue chippers are gone way earlier then I would be comfortable jumping up to get them.
Very fair. All right, last point I'm going to make here as we load this up. Last week's draft. So we talked about, you and I just a handful of minutes ago, some of the reasons, you like to do mock drafts, just learning about players, being prepared. Like you said, you always want to be prepared for scenarios. Well, last week with Anthony Prohaska. So the first round went pretty much, nothing crazy. And Anthony had and he'll be the first to tell you guys this. In fact, he has said this. Kind of had a specific strategy for round 2, and it fell apart like in real time. Like he wanted a guy. I can't remember who it was at 56 specifically. Oh, he wanted a defensive tackle, Alexander, and he wanted to trade up, but he waited too long. And we got to pick 48, and he tried to get up to Miami. And no matter what we did on the sticktothemodel.com app, which is awesome, by the way, we'll talk about that throughout this. Miami would not make the trade, and they took Alexander. And his world kind of got rattled because he went corner in the first, didn't get the defensive tackle he wanted, so he passed on that. Then we were talking about Xavier Watts, and then Detroit took him right before, just completely flustered in real time. And I would imagine, even realistically, that's probably how war rooms get too. Like one move that, you don't see coming or that you really plan for, and it just gets thrown in your face. It can really set off some chaos. So I guess what I'm saying here, Bruce, is that these mock drafts can be fun, but they also can, if you take them serious, like I know you do, you can take a lot of pride in, knowing these players and having some kind of plan. Chaos could rule the day. So it's always possible, and it could happen with us here right now when we do it. So here's what I'll do. And again, I got to also make sure, because we're catering to a lot of people who are listening. Although I would suggest when it comes to these mock drafts, you probably get a lot more if you get a chance to go on YouTube and watch, just because you could see the board. I'm not going to read over every single pick. Let's do this though. Before we even pause it, let me get through the first 15 picks, and then we would discuss like what would be the big swing trade up, because trading the Bills, if you go by the value chart, the first and their second, that could get you up to around 16, 17, somewhere around that ballpark. So let's just get through the first 15 picks, and then we'll stop and see. All right. So we'll go through. All right. So Arizona would be at pick 16. All right. So we'll go through these first 15, Bruce, and I'm trying not to scroll too fast. Again, I'm not going to run by a name by name account. These are all guys that the Bills have no chance of getting. Although one guy that we do talk a lot about is Derek Harmon. And in this mock, he went 10 to Denver. How surprising would that be to you for him to be a top 10 pick?
That would be surprising to me. I haven't had him historically when I've gone through these things predictively on my own. I haven't had him go that high. I would be surprised by that. Also, to Denver is an interesting fit. But I really like Harmon. Like Harmon's DT3 for me. So I'm not shocked that he goes that high and somebody would love him. It only takes one, right? But it's a little bit surprising.
Okay, now I will also add this too, because part of this exercise, and it is an exercise, is to also get your thoughts on some players, like you just said about Derek Harmon. Let's just say in a scenario we're running through this mock and you get to pick 23, 24, and Derek Harmon is on the board. If you're Brandon Beane, would that range probably be something that you would be comfortable potentially trading up for?
Is Kenneth Grant there too? Because if Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon are there at 24, I'm not making the move, because the gap between the two of them is so small that the probability of one of them being there at 30 is high enough that I'm willing to wait.
Okay.
And that's what I mean. It's contextual, right? So it's like, do I move up for this guy? Yeah, but I'm not tunnel visioned on that guy. It's what is the maximization of that value? I mean, Pat, you've been in a dynasty league with me for a couple of years now. You know how I roll. Right.
Oh, I know.
So you know how I roll. I have spreadsheets and I have classification tables, and I have the whole thing broken down. And so for me, it's not about that one player. It's about maximizing the total return I get on all of my picks. So if I have the ability to get a 1 and a 2 and use them on Derek Harmon, or I sit and I get either Harmon or Grant, I'm taking option 2.
Okay. Let's get to 18 here. I want to see something. All right, so Arizona's on the clock at 18. And by the way, for people who are on the audio side or are wondering about a couple of picks of note, Will Johnson went to Miami at pick 13. All right, so here's my question for you. Arizona's on the clock at 18. And again, I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is going to be, but I want to be thorough about this, at least the first round. This will start to fly through more as we get later in the draft. All right, so you're sitting there at pick 18, and 30 and 56 would get you to this spot. You mentioned defensive tackle. Harmon is up there. I think you said you used DT3. I'm assuming Graham, of course, was DT1. Kenneth Grant's here. You're worried. You really want Grant or Harmon. Do you really want Grant or Harmon enough that you would be willing to go pretty big right now and give up a first and a second to potentially go get Kenneth Grant this high? Or is this still a little bit too rich for your blood?
This is too rich for me, and the answer is because I'm not tunneled on just defensive tackle either. There are a couple of really good corners that are still on the board right now.
Okay.
And there are a couple edge rushers that I would be interested in. If you click on players right now,
yeah, that's what I
look at the available people.
Yes.
If you think to yourself, okay, cool. So you go, hey, Maxwell Hairston, Trey Amos, Desiree Thomas, these are the three that I would consider to be potentials at 30, right? Then go to defensive line and edge. So you go to defensive line, Kenneth Grant's there, but also Walter Nolan. Someone's going to take Walter Nolan as a 3 tech, maybe over Kenneth Grant, who a lot of people think is a 1 tech, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you think, okay, I still probably have 2 cracks at that apple. Then you go to edge rusher and you think to yourself, this is a good edge class. Mike Green, who a lot of people have being mocked in the top 10, is still there. So Green, Pierce, Ezraku, Skirton, who I like a lot. So now there's 4 edges that I just said that you could potentially take at 30. I have 3 more corners that I would take at 30. I would have 2 defensive linemen interior that I would just take at 30. Okay. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players. And we're at what? Pick 18?
Mm-hmm.
I'm comfortable sitting. Like, that's the reason you go, when you tier these players, you think, I'm comfortable sitting here. Because if I only had 4 of those players left or 3 of those players left, okay, maybe, right? Maybe now I jump, right? Because I'm like, listen, I don't want to be forced to take somebody out of position that I don't want. Just out of curiosity, I didn't see it, but I think Malachi Starks hasn't been taken yet in this mock. Can we just take a quick look?
He has not.
Okay, so that's a great example. So that makes what I just said 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 10 players if you count Starks. That's 10 players, and we're at pick 18. One of those players is going to be there, right? And there's just 4 positions. Like, no one's going to take a running back. No one's going to take an offensive lineman. Like, even if every single one of those players got taken, every single pick, which is not going to happen between now, those would run out at pick 28. So for me, I'm good.
All right. So it sounds to me like you're definitely patient and more than likely going to wait to 30. What we'll do is we'll make our next pit stop. And again, I have the draft value kind of guide, at least for the first 2 rounds, is some potential things. Let's say one of those guys you really like, say you get to pick 26. That's where you're talking about. It would be your first at 30 and 109, your 4th. Value-wise, that would be a match. So we'll see what's on the board when we get to pick 25 or 26. And just to run it by and see if they're, because maybe this goes the way you really want a guy. We'll see. But anyway, I'll go 3 picks here. All right, so Mike Green does go all the way to pick 20. Chicago. What else was interesting? 18. Arizona took wide receiver Matthew Golden. I know some Jeremy White. Those guys still are all about getting a wide receiver. We'll go 3 more picks here. All right, this board feels like it's going your way right now because none of the guys you mentioned literally just went in the last 3 picks, and we're all the way up to 25 right now. So what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks before the Bills are on the clock. I feel like at this point, are we going to let this ride? Or do you want to go pick by pick? Let's go pick by pick for the first round, and then we'll speed it up. So the Chargers take James Pierce at 25. The Rams are at 26. Still in wait mode?
Absolutely. At this point, based on how many people are there, I'm in like trade down mode right now.
I was just thinking that we didn't even discuss that. That is absolutely. I don't think this machine offers you an opportunity to just trade down. I think you have to manually try to find somebody and do that.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right. So 26, Malachi Starks does go to the Rams at 26. 27, Seattle takes wide receiver Luther Burden. All right. So there's 2 more picks and the Bills are on the clock. There it is. Well, back-to-back defensive tackles. So if you're a defensive tackle guy and you were hoping to wait to 30, the way this mock played out, you just took a blow there because Kenneth Grant goes 28. By the way, Detroit screwed the Bills in this last week's mock draft twice, and they're starting to do it again here. 28, Kenneth Grant goes to the Detroit Lions. Walter Nolan lasts all the way to pick 29, and he goes to the Washington Commanders. The Buffalo Bills are now on the clock at pick 30. I'm sure you're going to want to take a look at players here. You want to go positionally, start anywhere specific?
Yeah, I already know. I'm good. I'm good here trading down. I'm completely good here trading down if we can find somebody, because of the players I'm comfortable here, right? As a Raku, there's multiple cornerbacks that I'm okay with. Revel's still there. Hairston's still there. Amos still there. Nick Skirton, who I really like, is still there. Azare Thomas is still there. There's 6 players that I'd be comfortable with here. What I want to know is, I think Jalen Milroe is still here from a quarterback standpoint. Is that right?
Yes, he is.
So I want to see if someone wants to move up from the top of the second to get a 5th-year option on a quarterback. So at this point, I'm calling, scroll up to the top real fast. Show me the quarterbacks that have been taken thus far. I think Cam Ward got taken. Shadur Sanders got taken at 3 in this case. And Jackson Dart got taken at 21 of the Steelers, if I remember correctly.
Yes, he did. Yep. He
went to Pittsburgh, so what that means is that, you're probably looking at, so Giants took 1, Titans took 1,
Cleveland did not.
Cleveland took 1. Where does New Orleans pick in the second round? New Orleans picks at 40. Call them up.
Let's see if we could do this. So I will hit trade.
Yep. So here are the trade offers we currently have. It's Carolina.
Oh, okay. So there are trade offers. I was wrong.
And they're going to give me the 48, 57 in future, 48, 42, 47. I don't want to move back that far. Go to create trade on this. And we're going to go ahead and ask, we're going to give
the Saints.
Yeah, we're going to give the Saints a call and see if they want to move up for Milroe, right? So we're going to ask for 40 back, and we're going to ask for 71, and we're going to give them 30, and we're going to give them, we'll see, 132 maybe.
Hold on. So 40 and 71.
Yeah.
For 20 and
you go for 30 and maybe 132.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, look at me. I eyeballed that and I got it almost right from a point standpoint.
Oh, let's see if it happens. All right.
Let's see if they like us.
For people listening, the trade offer, we're trying to trade with the Saints, trade down to 40 and also pick up 71 in exchange for this 30th pick here and also pick 132. Proposed trade. It has been accepted. Look at that. All right. So the Bills have now traded back. I think this might be the first time in any mock that I've seen the Bills, and one of my mocks anyway, trade back. So this is kind of exciting now. All right, so now New Orleans is on the clock. The Bills are now picking at 40. So we'll let 3 or 4 of these go by. Let's see. The Saints took a wide receiver at 30.
That makes sense. I mean, I in this my hypothetical, I'm calling him up for a quarterback, but Emeka Egbuka, with all the concussion problems surrounding Chris Olave, it's not like they don't have any other injury issues. I mean, their speedster got hurt last year too, and you might be rolling into the year with Spencer Rattler. So giving him some help, giving him every opportunity to get a quarterback friendly target. And Egbuka is basically a veteran at this point, right? Does everything he's supposed to do, is exactly where he's supposed to be. I do think that some of the conversations about him being a high floor, low ceiling player, I do think those are overstated. I don't understand why he can't have a really high ceiling in today's NFL, where a lot of people put their best player in the slot. Like, I don't understand why. Like, someone explain it to me like I'm 5. Like, why Emeka Egbuka can't be really, really good, because I don't get it. So for me, that's a pick that makes sense for them, despite the fact that they have some quarterback concerns.
Sure. We'll go. Here's what we'll do. We'll go 2 more before old buddies in the New York Giants front office are on the clock too. All right. So the Giants are at pick 34 right now. They're on the clock. And in terms of, if you're looking at corner, this has been a dream, because Harrison's still there. Amos is still there. Thomas is still there. Ravel's still there. In terms of defensive tackle right now, Tyleik Williams is still there. TJ Sanders is still there. Safety. Oh, well, my bad. Starks is gone, but those are probably the 2 positions. Edge rusher. Izaraku's still there. Gordon's still there. So yeah, a lot of talent here still on the board. Are we looking to let this ride?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Giants take Maxwell Harrison. And then with the next pick, 35, the Tennessee Titans take Izaraku, the edge rusher. Jacksonville takes Ravel at 36. Amos goes to 37.
Not panicking.
For the Raiders. No, I know. So we got 2 more picks, and the Bills are on the clock. We're going to let this roll now for sure. All right. Well, Scorden went. Let me go back to the draft here. Scorden went just 1 pick before to the Philadelphia Eagles at 39. Arizona took an interior offensive lineman. That wouldn't be of interest to the Bills. All right, so the Bills are now on the clock at 40. And let's remember, folks, we gave up a late 4th, but we now have a 3rd round pick that we did not have before. You go to your board. What position you want to go to first?
So Azare Thomas is here at cornerback. Show me defensive line and edge. I'm pretty sure I already know who's there, right? Tyleek Williams is here, who I really like as a one tech in this defense. Go to edge and Landon Jackson. Okay, so we're gonna go Azare Thomas here as a corner, and I actually really like Thomas as a fit. That I know Amos is the apple of everyone's eye, but I actually think Azare Thomas fits the defense in an area that I think that they were weak at last year, which is defending the quick game. So Azare Thomas, because of his length, because of his ability in press, because of the initial aggressiveness and his ability to transition the early phases of the route, I actually think he helps you in an area where you were weak. It's not just about the positional need. It's about what are you trying to get better at as an organization. And the quick game was something that really hurt the Bills a lot last year. Azare Thomas has the type of skill set that can help you specifically at that thing, aside from just being CB2, right? It's not just, oh, let's fill the hole with a guy who has the position next to his name that fills the hole. It's about what the person actually does and how that's going to benefit your team. Azare Thomas is an example of that. I like him. I like him here at 40. This is the reason why I didn't panic. It's because one of the people I like was going to be there, right? So it ended up happening. I'm thrilled about it.
Do you want to? All right. So the Bills, right now we're at pick 43. Defensive tackles that are still on the board. Williams that we talked about, Sanders, Alexander, Alfred Collins. Those are like the big 4 that are still on the board as we go. Now the Bills are scheduled to pick at 56. I don't know, if you want to keep your eye and see if those guys start to go, where they do, and if you want to potentially make a move in, but we'll let a couple picks go by and see. So Tyleek Williams does go 44 to Dallas. If there's a position where you're thinking about maybe trading up, then let me know so I don't pick over it. Donovan Jackson, got a lot of talk about him in the Bills, by the way. 43 goes to Frisco. Benjamin Morrison, a corner that I like, goes to Notre Dame. Goes to Notre Dame. He did go to Notre Dame. Got drafted by Indy. Was I wrong about Landon Jackson before? Oh, yeah.
Donovan Jackson. Jackson. You had.
Well, Landon Jackson is now Seattle Seahawk. TJ Sanders, defensive tackle. I believe the Bills, they announced today the Bills were bringing him in for a visit. He just goes off the board at 48. Cincinnati's on the clock at 49. Still got a little bit way to go. Are we going to wind it up?
Yeah, let me get past Chicago and see what happens here.
All right. So Alfred Collins goes to Chicago. Jack Sawyer, edge rusher, goes 51 to Cincy. So Seattle's up at 52. We still got 4 picks before the Bills.
I'm good. Let it ride.
Are on the clock. All right. We're going to let it ride right to 56 then. Darius Alexander does go. Let me recap back in the draft. By the way, shout out sticktothemodel.com. I'm become a big fan of this app really quick. I love the way you can navigate between the players in the draft and some of the stuff at the end too. Darius Alexander goes 54 to Green Bay. JTT, who Anthony ended up taking in round 2. Again, that was kind of like a holy shit, what are we going to do here kind of move in the moment. But anyway, he goes 53 to Tampa. The Buffalo Bills are now on the clock.
Okay. So Xavier Watts is still here. Princely Umana-Milan is still here as a defensive end who I really like. Show me the defensive interior right now. Omar Lorman-Lott, Joshua Farmer. Okay. So there's 3 people here that I have kind of my on, right? Omar Norman-Lott is a 3 tech, not a 1 tech. But I think Farmer and Dion Walker are people who the Bills could feel strongly about. I know that they have a meeting with Walker. Yes. And I know that Farmer is a player that I think is a little underrated for me. I think that a lot of people might be surprised when he goes in the mid-second because they were kind of thinking about him. And to be fair, I was thinking about him early in this process as an early day 3 guy. And I think it's just kind of slowly the drum beat starts to go and go. And I don't think he's going to be there at that point. So for me, I have my eye on a certain clump of players, right? Watts, Norman Lott, Farmer, Walker, like these are the kind of guys I have my eye on. I think Amon Milan is somebody that I could take here. Braden Swinson. I'm not a huge Jared Ivey guy out of Ole Miss. So for me, that's what? 6 guys?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
all right.
You sure you don't want to take Teron Henderson and throw a monkey wrench into everything and get Bills fans going absolutely crazy that James Cook can be gone by the time they wake up Saturday morning?
I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I don't think Travion Henderson is going to be here at this spot. I'm surprised to see him here in the mock. I think he's a really, really, really good player. I think there's some really positive comparisons to Aaron Jones in his game. It is so rare to have a player, every year people say, oh man, you get this guy out there, he can run routes like a wide receiver. They all say that, right? And it's always a lie, like literally always a lie. There's some actually pretty good reps out there from Travion Henderson lined up wide. Like there was like a slant and go, and I was like, oh, okay, Travion. All right, I see you. Like I do think people are going to look at him and think this is a guy who's legitimately a 3-down back. He can block, he can run routes, he can give you that extra gas, and he doesn't need like 25 touches a game in today's NFL. You probably don't want to give him that anyway. I think he compares very favorably to the new modern NFL back. And I think Aaron Jones is a great example of that kind of thing because he's had a skill set that's just kind of hung on. Like everyone thought Aaron Jones was done 2 years ago and he just keeps hanging on, which you would expect for a player like Derrick Henry because he's built like a tank, right? But it's not, you don't expect Aaron Jones to still be wildly effective at 30 given his frame and his injury history. But sure enough, here he is. So I think for me, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take, go to defensive end. Oh, sorry, defensive interior lineman right now.
Defensive interior lineman.
So I think, okay, 62, 77, 79. I'm trying to get an idea for when these guys are going to come off war because I think I'm probably going to try and move from 71 because that's our pick after this. And then let me see the edge rushers again.
Hold on. Or did we, hold on. Who have we taken? My bad. Hold on.
No worries.
No, we're at 56 right now.
Yeah. But I'm going to try and move from 71. Probably. Oh, okay. So I might try and jump from 71. So we'll see. Because I have another pick in 6 picks. The question I'm saying is, who should I take here that I don't think will be there in 6 picks, or at least won't be a spot where I can make something happen? So this is my draft. I get to pick the players. Yes. So for me, it's going to be Xavier Watts. And this is not predictive. I don't think the Bills are going to take a safety this high.
I was hoping you were going to say that. I was hoping for a specific reason. All right. So we're taking Xavier Watts and we're going to let this go to 62, correct?
We're going to let it go. We're going to let it go a couple picks. So don't get too liberal with the start button here.
I got to try to be quick here. So I got to draft him. All right. Well, we only missed on 2, and we're you weren't going to take Henderson. So let me ask you this because we got to pause. We got to stop this. I don't know. I listen to people like you. Lots of people, film guys out there. I read and study and try to learn as much as I can about a lot of these prospects. But at the end of the day, other than some highlights and what people that I trust, what they feel about them, I really don't have what I would call an informed opinion about a lot of these prospects. What I do have an informed opinion on are Notre Dame guys, because that is the one team I watch them literally every single game. I love Xavier Watts. I think he's going to be a great professional. But here's my question to you. You got Cole Bishop, you got Taylor Rapp. And listen, I've seen a lot of people mocking or having interest in Xavier Watts, okay? If the Bills were to take Xavier Watts, Bruce, what does that mean for the secondary? What does that mean for that position if they take Xavier Watts at pick 56?
Well, let me be clear. I don't think they're going to, but this is my mock. I get to do what I want to. Exactly. But if they did, what it means is Taylor Rapp and Cole Bishop are fighting in camp for that second starting spot. Because I think that the Cole Bishop, Taylor Rapp redundancy is a real thing. I do. Yes. I think they have similar skill sets. It was always kind of a weird pick for me for that reason. And Xavier Watts has a complementary skill set. I do think he's probably one of the best, probably top 2 coverage safety in this year's class. And I know there are tackling concerns with him, but it's not a willingness to tackle. It's simply an over-aggression issue. And I think that can be coached. So for me, if you're not a good tackler because you try too hard, like that's cool. Like I can deal with that. If you're not a good tackler because you don't have interest, right? Then that's a whole different story. And I'm not interested in that. But I don't think the Bills are going to look at someone like that and think to myself, oh, they're disinterested in tackling. I don't think it's what they're going to look at. So for me, I don't think this would happen, but I like it. So that's what we're going to do.
Look, I know you're getting around to addressing the front part of the defense. And I'm just going to say, you go back to last year in the AFC Championship loss. It's always, you can never get to Mahomes. You can't get him down. Well, guess what? Nobody could cover anybody, and guys were open in like a second and a half. And your first 2 picks are showing a commitment to revamping the Bills secondary. I absolutely love it. All right, so we are at pick 59 now. 3 more before the Bills are on the clock. What are we doing here?
So there's a reasonable chance that 1 or 2 edge rushers go off the board in the next 2 picks.
Yes.
So what we need to be prepared for right now is we need to be prepared for a defensive interior line pick at 62, because I don't think that every edge rusher I want is going to be there, right? Okay. But let's assume for a second that no edge rushers come off the board with the next 3 picks. If that's the case, you might go edge rusher here because you're going to have a thinner top. And you think, okay, I can get my defensive tackle at 71, but I don't know if I can get my edge at 71. And so that's the value proposition. So we see how it rolls from here on in. And if you have a tier break, then okay, that's fine. Like we'll go at defensive interior. But if not, then maybe you go edge rusher.
All right, let's go New England here. Darian Porter, the corner, goes to New England. So Detroit was screwed me the last couple of weeks. Every time we like a player, Detroit takes him. I'm telling you. Pick 60. Here we go. Princely, their edge rusher is gone. Washington is on the clock. The Bills are next. We're going to let Washington make the pick here?
Yep.
All right. Washington takes, I don't know who they took.
Quinshon Judkins. They took a running back.
Okay. All right. So now here we go. We're on the clock. We're at pick 52. Edge rushers, lots there. Farmers there. Walker's there. Interior, my bad. No one you've talked about in terms of edge guys specifically on this show anyway today so far. I don't know. What are you thinking here? So those are the 2 positions on the defensive line. Edge, interior. I mean, of course, there's other positions on the field as well, but that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, show me the edge rushers again. So Jordan Birch is interesting here. I do think that that's a player that the Bills could theoretically be interested in the second round. I like Josiah Stewart, but to me, I'm looking at, Savion Jones, Oladejo. Like I'm thinking to myself, Tyler Barron, Q Robinson ranked really high in this one. Like I've been really excited about Q Robinson as like a day 3 guy. And now I'm thinking to myself, good, based on this, goodness gracious, is he going to be like a top of the 3rd round kind of player like in here? Cause I like Q Robinson, but I don't like him that much. I think this is really interesting because the Bills had a type for a long time. And then they kind of broke away from their type in recent years with Von Miller and with Javon Solomon. So you think to yourself, okay, when I'm trying to mock up or I'm trying to predict the type of player that the Bills will be interested in, I'm getting kind of like a weird personality, distinction here. Like I had dual personalities. Do I want the type of player that they were historically interested in, long-limbed, heavy-handed pass rushers, like Gregory Rousseau, AJ Epinesa, or do I want Von Miller and Javon Solomon, very different players. Yeah. And so as I look at this and I think to myself, okay, defensive tackle, you probably need 2. So I'm going to go ahead because I'm not super excited about any of the edge rushers. You just signed Gregory Rousseau. I think I'm going to take, I really want to take Joshua Farmer here, but how bad do I want this? I want it bad enough that I'm not comfortable. I'm taking Joshua Farmer at right here. All right. So I'm doing it because he's one of the last players that I feel really comfortable with just walking in and being a guy who can immediately start taking reps and be a one tech and be that guy. I think there's still something there with Farmer. And I think that there's an opportunity with Farmer to not just develop him for the future. Like, oh, wow, you get this defensive line in, he might be really good in 26 or 27 after he's developed. Like, I think he can come in right now and be a Daquan Jones speller and then potentially be like the dude in 2026. And I think that I'm too frightened with Kansas City, Philadelphia, Kansas City twice, mind you. Kansas City twice, Philadelphia, the Giants, and Vegas and Jacksonville, all between this pick and the next pick. I'm scared one of them is going to take Farmer. And then I'm like, okay, all of my preferred one techs, like the ones I feel really strongly about, they're all gone at that point. So then I'm forced to just make a pick just because they're that guy. And I don't want to be that spot. So I'm taking Farmer.
Okay. We'll let this roll for a few here.
I was right. They took a defensive tackle right behind us.
Yep. The Kansas City. Omar Norman Lott goes right after to Kansas City. Jalen Noel, wide receiver. I know people talk about him. Somebody goes to Cleveland at pick 67. Vegas is on the clock at 68. And again, now we're at 3 picks for the Bills go on the board. Let it ride. Go one at a time here.
Let it ride.
Let it ride. Jalen Royals, a wide receiver. He goes to, who do you go to here? Baltimore at 69. All right, so the Bills are on the clock now at 71. Right? Yeah, early third round here. What are we thinking?
Show me the edge rushers here. So Birch is still here, and I'm tempted because I know I can get a second defensive tackle later. Go over and switch over to interior defensive line real fast. So as I look at this list of available players, like this is I'm going to target like Jamari Caldwell. Like I would love CJ West to still be there, and I might try and trade up for CJ West because I really like him. But the idea is that we're going to try and target like a Jamari Caldwell, right? And try and pick him up. And maybe we're probably going to try and move up as this list starts to get dropped. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the edge rusher now. So don't take him quite yet, but we're going to take him. We're going to take Jordan Birch right here.
Okay.
But as we take him, we're going to keep an eye on the board. And so go back to interior defensive line, and we're going to keep an eye on this board, and we're going to count. So we're going to watch for Walker, Turner, and West, and Caldwell. Okay. Those are the 4 players we're keeping an eye on. Maybe Jordan Phillips. So maybe 5. Okay. When 4 of those 5 have gone, we're pulling the trigger on a trade up.
Okay.
That's the way this works. If we get to a spot where none of them have gone, then okay, great. But that's what we're going to keep an eye on. So we're going to Walker, Turner. So I'm going to write this down real fast. Okay.
Walker,
so
Turner,
Walker,
West, Turner, CJ West.
Walker, Turner, West.
I think you said Phillips. And Caldwell.
And Caldwell.
Yep. All right. So we're going to pull the trigger on Birch right now. And we're going to watch for those guys. Now, I will remind everybody listening and watching the show, this was part of a trade. We did give up 132. So after this, the next Bills pick is scheduled to be at 109. But now we don't have a second fourth. It'll be at 109. And then what is that? 169. So a big gap coming up after this pick. And then, like I said, 109 and then 169. We'll have like 3 picks out of 5 when we get to that part of the draft. So we're going to take Birch now and keep our eyes open, right?
Yep.
All right. So Jordan Birch is gone. All right. Now I can run this 2 at a time. All right. Nothing still. We're at 74. We're still going to have a ways to go here. Walker does go.
Okay, Walker done. So there's 1 down.
He goes to Atlanta at pick 74. Nothing. Shamar Turner. Did you say you had him, right?
I did not have him on the list.
Okay. Well, he goes.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Sorry, I did.
So he goes 78 to the Patriots. So that's 2 out of the 5 that are gone.
Phillips, West, Caldwell are the 3 we're keeping an eye on. When 2 of them are gone, we're pulling the trigger.
Yep. All right. So I got to be careful I don't choke here. Kevin Winston, pretty popular safety, goes 82 to Seattle. Still nothing. Try not to make sure I go more than 2 here because of my luck to go. Jared Ivey goes 87 to the Packers. Still nothing. We're up to 91. McCobb was a safety that Anthony took last week, actually late in round 2. And I seen him being mocked. I think Joe B might have had him going 3rd round to the Bills in his mock draft that actually just dropped today. All right, so far so good here. We're up to pick 97. All right, we're all the way at 101. We still got a couple guys out there. You might end up having a choice of 1 or 2 of these if we can play this right. Will Howard.
Watch me trade down again.
Will Howard goes to Cleveland at pick 104. Torrey Horton, wide receiver, goes to the Patriots at 106. All right, so we got two picks, and the Bills are on the clock. So Kyle Williams, wide receiver, goes to Jacksonville. We're going to let this pick play out, obviously, right? All right, so there it is. So the Bills are on the clock now at pick 109, and you still have among your edge or your interior guys that you really liked. You still got West, you still got Phillips, you still got Caldwell.
So here's my question: do we want to live dangerously? Like, do we want to trade down again and then try and move up later on? I want to see if I can. So there's a 60 pick gap right now between 109 and 169. I would like to shrink that gap. So let's go ahead and talk trade here.
The only offer we got was from Tampa. 109.
I'm not willing to move down. They want us to move from 109 to 121, and we also get 157. So I'm not interested in that. So let's go ahead and create a trade here.
Okay, create a trade.
Yep. So I want to call up. Let's see who is at. Let's see, we're at 169. Give me somebody in the high 170s, maybe. So let's pull a couple of people here who are in the high 170s. I'm sorry. I'm not high 170s. Like 117. So let's look at like Indianapolis, Miami, Atlanta. Hold on. Who got it? Let's just do some strategizing on the fly here. So Arizona is at 115. Show me who they've picked so far.
I don't know how to do that.
So search by team. You can go on the search bar, right? And there's right there. There you go. You found it. And just type in Cardinals. It didn't pull the way we wanted it to. Okay, go ahead and exit out of this. I don't know why it didn't do what we wanted it to do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's take a quick gander. Who did they pick in the first round? Just scroll real fast and you'll find them. So Cardinals picked. Oops, stop. They picked Matthew Golden because they picked a wide receiver in the first round.
Yep.
Da-da-da. Who did they pick? Cardinals. This is really great content for people who are listening. So
I decided it up by the
I just want you to know I really appreciate you all listening. I do my best to try and be aware of that because I have an audio only show. So I very much try. Oh goodness. Okay. All right. They need a defensive interior lineman. I don't want to do it. And so does San Francisco. Okay. Shoot. Okay, what about the Saints? 112.
112?
Yeah, I don't want to trade back behind those players.
That'd be for the second time we traded with them too. Hey, you never know though.
Yeah, let's call the Saints.
All right, let's get to New Orleans here.
Hey, we did business before. Let's do business again.
Well, I'd love to do business.
Scroll up. There they are.
All right, okay. So you're talking.
So I want 112. I'll give them 109. Okay. But I also want 132.
Okay.
And I'm going to give them 109 and 177. 173. Yeah. Okay.
It feels like even giving up 169 feels like they
let me give them one. Do I have anything in the round 7 at this point?
Round 7?
Yeah, I have. All right. Let me give them 109, 173, and also my 7th, which is 206. Sorry, my 6th, which is 206. Okay. They're probably not going to give me what I want here. Okay. Scroll down a little bit more on the Bills.
I'm all the way down.
That's it. Okay. Give them my other 6 too. Give them 177. All right. Now I want 248 back. From them. Or 254 back. Bingo. All right. Let's try that. I'm going to try and pinch this a little bit and see if I can. Okay. They rejected me. All right. We're going to stick
of a 1 point difference too.
Yep. 1 point difference.
Yeah. You know what? Okay. I to see the reason we have our eye on a specific player at this position.
Yep.
That happened with Miami. I like that. Kind of makes it hard to trade. It's not always Yep.
All right. We couldn't make it happen. We're going to go ahead and stick and pick here. We'll try and move up later. But we're going to take another interior lineman here. We're going to take a second one.
Okay.
And it's going to be Jordan Phillips.
Jordan Phillips.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we must always have a Jordan Phillips on the team. Obviously, as you know, right? It's like the Sith, where you have to have there can only ever be two, no more, no less. It's a similar concept to that, only in this case it's Kyle Williams and Jordan Phillips, right? You have to have Kyle Williams's and you have to have Jordan Phillips on the team, and they don't have an opportunity. So for me, I think that this is a guy where you're really doubling down on the similar frames, I think, between Phillips and Farmer. You got people who are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4-ish. They're 310 plus. They've got good enough, arms. The Farmer's obviously got crazy long arms, but good enough arms for Phillips on the inside. Powerful guy, explosive at the point. Like, I really think that this is a kind of player that he doesn't remind you of the other Jordan Phillips. So we shouldn't compare. They're very, very, very different players. But one tech is a very real concern. So let's kill it with a flamethrower, right? Let's do it twice.
All right. So we got 2 defensive tackles. And by the way, for keeping score at home, this is a very heavy, it's literally an entirely defensive draft so far. You took the corner, Thomas, Watts, the safety, Farmer, defensive tackle, Phillips, another defensive tackle, and Jordan Burks, defensive end. I've been letting this run for a little bit because we're obviously.
While we were talking, did CJ West go?
I believe he did. Let's see. CJ West went at pick 118.
Did Caldwell go?
He has not went. Chris Paul, linebacker, goes. Bills are visiting with him. 127 to the Rams. Corner Noel Williams goes to Washington at 128. No, he's still out there. He's still out there. We're at pick 142. So we still got.
Where's our pick again?
We're at 142 right now. We're at 169. Then we got 169, 170, 171. I mean, you could probably package a couple of these to get up.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, but show me who's on the board for the players we want. I want to see specifically. Okay, so Jalen Lane's there. Ollie Gordon's there. Brashard Smith, which we talked about already. Caldwell's there. Deontay Thornton's there. Let's show me edge rushers too. And Hugh Robinson's there. Okay. So I want to try to come out of this situation here with. I think I want to try and come out of this situation with Hugh Robinson and a vertical receiver who has some returnability. So we need to try and figure out which one of the teams that exist between now and 169 is more likely to steal that ability from us. So if I think to myself, okay, Arizona already took a receiver. Indianapolis doesn't need one. Tampa Bay might take one. Green Bay's probably not going to. Philadelphia's probably not going to. They have multiple picks. Chargers, maybe. Chicago, no. Dallas, no. I think they already took one in this draft. Miami, no. Okay. So I think the better call here is to try and move up and get. Do you think we go try and get our receiver now, or do you think we try and go get Q Robinson now? So I think we go get Q Robinson now. So that's what I think we're going to do. So it's a more important player, and apparently I'm not going to be able to wait until like midday 3 to go get him. So if I go 5, don't give 170, but give 173 and 2. There you go. Okay. So if I go 169 and 173, ask for 221 back from the Titans. Bingo. Okay. So we're going to trade 169 and 173 for 142 and 221. So this is the reverse pinch, right? This we are actually adding leverage there.
And
so
successful trade too for people listening. It was accepted. So
beautiful. So we're going to move up. We're going to take Q Robinson here from Alabama.
Q Robinson right there. All right.
And as I mentioned before with Hugh Robinson, think Daryl Johnson. You remember Daryl Johnson, right? He was a four-phase specialties player. You got him late, but he had the kind of build that made you think like, okay, like, is this guy just a special teams player? I don't think he is. And that's the way I feel about Hugh Robinson. It wasn't that he couldn't. It was that he didn't get an opportunity to do so. Every time you saw him, I mean, I think the guy played less than 400 snaps from scrimmage during his entire college career. Like, it's just not a lot of reps. Alabama, of course, not a lot of reps. But you saw some opportunities for him, and he kind of flashed, and you were like, okay, that's a four-phase special teams player at minimum. This is a guy who absolutely can be rostered right now, which is a huge part of playing roster strategies. Who can make the team right now and contribute? Not only teams, but I think there's something there. So for me, now what we're looking at is we're looking at somebody who can give you something in return game, somebody who can be rostered. Maybe it's a safety 4, maybe it's a wide receiver 5. Like, that's kind of where we're looking right now. So go to the players before we let this run. Go to the players.
Jalen Lane went to Atlanta, wide receiver.
No worries. Right after us, so Dante Thornton is here. Okay. Isaac Tesla is here. Elijah Badger is here. Nick Nash is here, who I like, but doesn't necessarily fit that mold. Scroll down a little bit. Pat Bryant, who I like, is here. Ricky White, I think we can wait on. Yeah, I think we're fine here. So this is going to play out probably the way that I wanted it to. Just our next pick is now, it's going to be,
because we made trades. So we're at 170s our next pick, and then we pick at 177. So
I am completely cool letting this ride. I'm fine.
All right, we're going to let this ride. Caldwell just goes off the board right now out of 147 to the San Francisco 49ers. So far, so good, I think. It's looking pretty good for the guys that you mentioned. They're all still on the board, actually. Riley Leonard, quarterback, goes to the New York Jets. Buffalo Bills are on the clock here at 170. And it's your call here. Got receivers to choose from, like you said.
So I'm going to stop talking for a quick second, right? What do you think? What do you think, Pat? First off, what do you think of how we're doing? And what do you think we should do?
I like what we're doing.
Well, you're my assistant GM this time.
I think that Bills fans are probably going to lose their mind because they're going to say, well, you don't care about offense. Well, the offense is good. The offense was already historically good last year, and for the most part, they're essentially running it back. They lost Matt Collins and Amari Cooper, and they signed Josh Palmer. You can even argue that might be an upgrade in terms of skill position receiver. They don't really need a lot. It would be depth. I would say at this point, I don't know these prospects like you do, but I would probably be looking at a wide receiver who has either kick return ability or special teams ability, because I think there's a rosterable spot for another wide receiver. But it's got to be somebody who could play special teams too, or at least be good on kickoff returns or punt returns.
I think right here, I'll level with you. I think I'm gonna try. Yeah, too early for me. With how many snaps you think that guy's probably going to get, a little too early. I'll tell you one thing that I would be interested in. I would be interested in a tight end who could potentially play a little fullback, because I think if you wanted to reshape the offense a little bit and you decide you wanted to carry 4 running backs, you could do it if you weren't carrying a fullback. And if you had a third tight end who could be a fullback, that's something. As much as I like the Buffalo Bills fullback, there's something to say about that. I mean, this is an Isaac Tesla spot as well for me. This is like right in that area where I would be comfortable with an Isaac Tesla pick. So, all right, let me see. Do me a favor. Let me see interior offensive lineman, because I think I can wait. If I wanted to wait, I think I could here. And so for me, it's like, okay, could I take a player
again at 177? We're at 170 now.
Yeah. If I think I can wait, then sure, let's do it. All right. Show me the running backs and linebackers. I don't feel like I'm maximizing Ollie Gordon. There's Brashard Smith, who we talked about before.
Yes.
As a possibility for this specific. And also Jaden Blue is someone I could take later. I'm keeping my eye on Jaden Blue later for the same reason we just talked about. So let's look at linebacker.
Do.
I like Cody Simon here too.
Took him last week too. Great
Yeah.
minds think alike, I think, at times.
Yeah. I like,
I'm talking about me, by the way, just so we're clear.
yeah. I like Cody Simon here too. But yeah. Yeah. Give me Cody Simon right here. I don't feel good enough about the other picks maximizing my value. I think Simon's a good pick here. I think he's going to give me teams. I think he's going to make the roster right now. But did anybody get taken? Mondin, Hancock, Mers, Dotson, Timothy McKay. Nobody got taken between 170 and 177 who I was concerned about.
Yep. So the Bills are back on the clock here. It's just to refresh people's memories. We just took Cody Simon, a linebacker from Ohio State, at 170. We're at 177. The Bills are on the clock. After this, we got 2 picks scheduled, 206, 221.
All right. Let's go to wide receiver again.
Wide receiver. There you go. This point, yeah, to me, I don't know these prospects. If there's a player you just feel good about, developmental guy, but, at this point of the draft, you probably need to count on him making the 50-man, 53-man. Actually, I don't know if you need to count on it, but it needs to be somebody who's got a legitimate chance.
Let's take Tesla here.
All right.
I think you're at a spot now where I'm comfortable with him. I know he's not as clean of a special teams projection as some of the other people, but I think he's clean enough that you could easily see, okay, wide receiver 5, develop, freaky athlete. Let's do it. Let's take Tesla.
Okay. He's there. So we'll be coming up to pick 206 next. I got to be honest with you, as a Buffalo fan.
Do me a favor. Pause it right now. See if I can package both my last 2 picks and move up here with
Denver?
Green Bay. So let it run one more. Yep, that's what I wanted. Yep, Green Bay.
So Green Bay, so we're going to try to force a trade with Green Bay. We're going to try to get 198. We're
and give me 206 and 221. I mean, go ahead and offer it, but they're not going to accept.
Let's see.
So
it's close enough that we could force it. I mean, it's a close enough.
I'm not going to force it. I don't want to cheat. So let's wait until after we clear the Rams.
Giving up a 7 next year or 6 next year is not cheating.
Nah, let's wait until after we get past the Rams picks at 201 and 202 and then try again.
After we get past them?
Yep. So let's try Baltimore. Yep. Oh, they took that. That's exactly that. That's why right there. That's why. So this is why, because I thought the Rams might take a running back. They took 2. They took Brashard Smith and Trevor Etienne back to back. That's exactly why I wanted to wait to see if they took my guy before we did it. So
we're going to package Baltimore.
You know what? Hold on. We're 3 picks away. I might as well just wait at this point. I don't think Baltimore, Dallas, or Washington is going to take my guy. So let it ride at this point.
And I ask you who the guy is, so there could be some drama.
It's Jaden Blue.
It's Jaden Blue. All right, so we're going to go 3 picks here. Baltimore, Dallas, Washington. Yeah, all right, you got him.
I'm taking Jaden Blue here from Texas. He becomes RB4, return man. I think you've really buffed the last 3 picks. Simon, Tesla, Blue. They give you scrimmage ability. They can contribute on teams right now. So now we're at our last pick. Yes, our last pick is 221.
I want to see something real quick. I don't want to draft him. I just want to see if he was there. And he's not. He's probably not going to get drafted. I haven't been seeing him going to any mocks. I'm talking about the local boy, Sean Dolak.
Yeah. So let's look at interior offensive linemen now.
Interior offensive lineman or tight end, I feel like, are 2 things that we should be looking at here.
Okay. So Drew Kendall, Dellinger, Cooper, Cox. You said you don't know these players, right? You don't
No, I don't know. Have opinion. I mean, I might have heard them from another mock or something, but I know nothing about them. I'd be like, oh, okay, cool name. Or I've heard this guy get talked about. No, I don't know these players, especially on the interior offensive line. Come on, dude. I barely know first round interior offensive linemen.
Give me Garrett Dellinger. I think that he'd be drafted higher if he hadn't gotten hurt. So for me, it's the kind of player you want to draft late in the draft, right? Is the player that you think wouldn't have been here if not for this thing, right? I think that, it's a bloodlines pick. This is a guy who's got lots of experience, right? 4 years, he got games under his belt. has experience blocking for a guy that I really think is going to be a high pick next year with the LSU quarterback. I think he is a left guard. Like, I think he's right guard too, obviously. But I think it's an injury player. Like, that's the reason why he's here. I think that's the type of pick you make at this spot is hey, if not for blah, 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 he wouldn't be here. I feel really good about it.
Let's review these. All right. So we got all of our draft picks in. So we took Thomas in the first round, but it's worth pointing out again, we moved down to do it. We traded down with the Saints. I believe we picked up 71. We gave up 132 as well. So you got your corner with the first pick. Then we went back to the secondary in round 2 at 56 with Xavier Watts from Notre Dame. Also in the second round, we got our defensive tackle, one of two actually, Joshua Farmer from Florida State. Round 3, because we picked up that in the trade down with the Saints, took an edge rusher, Jordan Birch. By the way, we'll get to the grades too. Sticktothemodel.com is a pretty big fan of this draft, I must say. Jordan Phillips, another Jordan Phillips, not the one that a lot of Bills fans already know. Where the hell pick that number? I can't even see these numbers right now. What did we get him at? What was that, 134 or something like that?
For Jordan Phillips, it was 109. For Q Robinson, it was 142.
All right, so Q Robinson, 142, edge rusher from Bama. Cody Simon, a linebacker. Anthony took him as well last week, so that's definitely a name I'm going to start to lock in on. Then we went Isaac Tesla, a wide receiver. What pick was that? 191, is that? Yeah.
177 was Isaac Tesla. 206 was J.D.
Oh, I'm looking at ranks. All right, my bad. I was looking at the wrong column. 177 overall. My bad. Jaden Blue, running back from Texas at 206. And then Garrett Dellinger, interior offensive lineman at 221 to round this out. All right, let's get a couple quick thoughts from you on this draft. I like it, man. Me personally, and by the way, Stick to the Model gave you a B+ grade, and pretty cool analytics too that they have here. And again, it tells you about the trades, and afterwards it'll show you trends like where players were getting picked or positionally, things like that. Can't recommend this site enough. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this right now? If this is the way it plays out come April 24th through 26th, how are you going to feel?
I'd be really happy. I think you got a couple players who are prototypes at their positions: Azare Thomas, Xavier Watt, Joshua Farmer, Jordan Birch among them. I think those 4 players are what I would consider to be prototypical size, height, weight, speed. I think they have those things. If you want to add people who are better athletes to the defense, I think you did it. Like, you did it multiple times over. I think Farmer projects as a one tech right away. I think he can immediately come in and give you potentially better reps than you're getting from Daquan Jones, who I think took a little bit of fall off, but you're also protecting yourself from a future state and needing to do it again next year by taking Jordan Phillips again at 109. I think that Q Robinson and Jordan Birch in combination give you prototype size length on the outside, right? You can have your cake and eat it too. Like, you can have people who are long and also are good athletes. And I think that's what you got. In addition, Robinson, Simon, Tesla, Blue that's your special teams core right there. And you got your core right where you wanted them. You don't want to spend a day 2 pick on a guy who's going to project as only a special teams player, but you are willing to spend day 3 picks on people who can do that, but also give you meaningful reps as backups, which is exactly what you want to try and do. You don't want a special teams only player, but you do want a special teams and player. I think Dellinger is a type of player that you bring in and go, hey, I don't think you would have normally been here under other circumstances if you hadn't been banged up as much as you have. Hey, let's bring him to camp, right? Let's see what this looks like. Do we need to freak out about David Edwards, or is this a player that we feel like we can develop into something? And if not, so be it. But every single one of these players has an opportunity to be rostered this year. And the top 4 of them have an opportunity to play meaningful reps this year.
One of my favorite things to do at the end here is kind of say, if this is the way it plays out from a Bills standpoint, personnel standpoint, the biggest winners and the biggest losers of the draft. And here's what I mean. Like, the biggest losers of this draft, going by how this played out, I would say either Cole Bishop or Taylor Rapp. Like, one of them are not going to be a starter anymore. So that's what I mean by winners and losers from a team personnel perspective. I would say one of those 2 guys are not going to be a starter. I'm not sure that this is. Maybe I'm wrong. When I was going to say Dwayne Carter, but maybe that's really got nothing to do with what we did here today. I would say Bale Inspector with Cody Simon being a draft pick.
Yeah.
What about Javon Sullivan? What about Javon Sullivan? Like, because now we took two edge guys, including Birch, who, like you said, he's got a chance to play some meaningful reps relatively soon. And then you got Robinson as well. Obviously, you got Epinesa, Rizzo, Bosa. Hoyt will be back after 6 games. Probably wouldn't be a great sign for Javon Sullivan if the Bills took 2 edge rushers.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that you're looking at a player like, are you going to roster on game days Q Robinson or Javon Sullivan? It's going to be Q Robinson because he plays on teams. So for me, I think that is a big loser. I think a big winner is James Cook because you didn't draft a player at his position until 206, and you drafted a guy primarily for future conversations and also potentially let's come in and compete at a returner spot, see if maybe you feel better about him or Brandon Condrington. So I think that's a big winner for that. I also think a big winner on the offense would be a player. I think a big player in this would be Curtis Samuel, I think is a big winner because you didn't take a wide receiver until 177 and you're not projecting them to come in and try and take any of those snaps. So I think that's a big winner as well.
How about Ed Oliver being a winner just because he might have more talent around him on that front four?
Yes.
To do some things, man.
Big W there.
I love DaQuan Jones. I really, truly do. I advocated the Bills re-signing him when he was a free agent not that long ago, but I feel like it's if he's not at the end of the road, he is really, really close. So, and this draft kind of symbolizes that, man. This was fun. Going back, we went up, we went down, we went heavy on defense. I think the practical, reasonable Bills fan would love this draft. And by the way, we do this to try to build, I know you do, try to build the best team possible. You're roster building. You're not necessarily appeasing the fans per se with your picks. You're not trying to come up with guys that's going to get you the most likes on Twitter. At least that's what I feel anyway. I'm pretty sure you do as well. I love this draft, man. The Stick to the Model likes this draft. Good job, dude. This was fun. It's always fun.
Man. I think it's good to process. I think it's good to do these exercises to process what is important to you. I think that if you do enough mocks that are, here's what I would like to do mocks, all of a sudden what you end up having is you end up having your opinions and your preferences that kind of are revealed to you. Even if you didn't necessarily know what they were, you're forced into them. And that's what we talked about before we even got started with this exercise. And that's kind of what happened here.
Yeah. And listen, last point too, and then we're going to bounce out of here. But, you know, I'm a host and I talk to people, especially when it comes to this stuff, that are just straight up smarter than me when it comes to prospects, and they just know more. And going all the way back to the beginning of our conversation about being prepared and learning, you know, specifically and this today, if you've been following along for all these mock drafts and some of the other stuff with the guests that I've had on, I learned a lot more today about Joshua Farmer and about Jordan Birch and Q Robinson, who I knew nothing about whatsoever other than he went to Alabama. Like literally that's all I knew. So this really is a good learning opportunity besides the fun part of the mock, just to learn about more players. And if something like this goes down in the draft, to your point too, it's preparation. Anyway, you got 2 more shows left before the draft at the Bruce exclusive. It drops Thursdays. You going to be doing a lot of draft stuff?
I'm going to do late round players this upcoming Thursday. Mm-hmm. And then the day of the draft, my show drops. And I've been working on for a while trying to figure out how to do an episode that drops the day of the draft and doesn't immediately become invalidated by like 8:45 that night. So I came up with a concept that I think is fun, and we're going to go ahead and do it. And we'll see how people like it. We'll see people enjoy it. I think this is the worst time in the draft community. It's the 2 weeks before the draft. Everybody's pretty much at each other's throats, right? There's people in my comments saying mocks are stupid. Stop doing mocks. You're a bad content creator. You know, all those things like that. And so for me, first off, cool. Also, so that's fun. But I think that we're all just ready for it to happen. And I'm trying to find a way to make something that's enjoyable, but also salient as much on Friday as it is on Thursday. And so I think I came up with something that's fun. We'll see.
Well, I'm not that original. So when my episode drops on draft day, it's going to have a 5-hour shelf life. So yours does a lot better. The Bruce exclusive, make sure you go, of course, check that out. If you haven't done so already, follow Bruce on Twitter at Bruce Exclusive. Always a pleasure, my guy. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, guys, I will be back. Matt Warren from SB Nation joins me tomorrow.